Chapter number 5, Surprise Attack. And in this phase of the story, we have a gingerbread plane. Oh boy, can you imagine flying a gingerbread plane? It was just 1.5 hours before sunrise on Monday, the 23rd of December. The group of elves were gathered at the back of the workshop. There was a big sled with 6 reindeers, alabaster snowball, and like a dozen of armed elves with their colorful jelly bean machine guns. Just behind the sled was the ginger plane. It looked a lot like an old 2-seater version of the Spitfire. It just smelled better, since it was made of gingerbread. Alabaster approached them. "Okay, Rafti and John, the boys and I fly ahead. We'll reach Ice Lake just at sunrise. Our sled will come out of the rising sun. When they see us, it's going to be too late. John, you follow right behind us." "Consider it done, sir," John answered. So the reindeers took off, and Alabaster and his elves flew north over the pine tree forest. "Okay, John, let's go." It was pretty much like an old Spitfire plane. Rafti explained everything quickly. John was going to be the pilot and operate the guns. Yes, it had also jelly bean machine guns on board. Rafti was in the back seat and ready to jump and grab the Christmas star. A couple of minutes later, they were ready. It smelled delicious. The ginger plane flew with distilled maple syrup. They saw the sled with Alabaster's group in front of them and flew over the big pine tree forest. Like an hour later, they saw a big frozen lake on the horizon. A bit later, they saw also a black tower just next to the lake. The sun rose behind them. "Showtime," yelled Alabaster. Meanwhile, inside the tower, something is happening. Just in front of a window sat an elf in pitch black clothing with a grim smile. He had some junk food like candy and stuff on the table and sipped from a bottle that said Monti's Cola. Delicious, tastes even better than the original, but then that's just made by humans. Another elf in dark clothing said, "Monti, sir, the dark toys are almost ready. Tomorrow we can distribute them to the humans." "Excellent, Buster, my friend. Let's make this world a darker place. Let's be gloomy and depressed. It's Christmas after all," Monti said, and laughed in his dark mood. Then they heard a commotion outside, screaming and running everywhere. The alarm bell on the tower was ringing. He watched out the window and saw a big reindeer sled coming out of the sunrise right at them. Monti looked at the situation outside. He saw the lake, the big yard outside surrounded by a big stone wall, and the big dark workshop just next to his tower. All of a sudden, the elves led by Alabaster Snowball jumped out of the sled and shot at everybody. A rain of colorful bullets. "Damn jelly bean machine guns," said Monti. Dark elves turned colorful everywhere. Even his lovely black tower got colorful spots on it where you could see shiny red brickstones. They were overrun, so it seemed. "Buster, take Kringle and get to the sled ready. We've got to get out of here," said Monti. Meanwhile, John and Rafti rose high in the sky, seeing the attack on the ice lake. Suddenly, John let the plane fall deep down to earth again. It plummeted out of the sky like a stone, right at the top of the tower, while his golden Christmas star shone bright in the morning light. But it was a cold light. The star stood on top of Black Christmas tree in a bucket of coal. "Almost there," thought John. "Get ready, Rafti. Careful. Now. Okay, John, fly right next to it. Wait, now!" He shouted, and the plane rose again and flew parallel to the top of the tower. Rafti unbelievably jumped on the tower next to the cola bucket, grasped the star, and before any dark elf could think of what to do, he jumped back onto the plane. John turned the plane around, saw 2 dark elves shouting on top of the tower and throwing cola bottles at them. He aimed his guns at them, and a salvo of colorful jelly beans struck them. They fell to the ground and turned colorful and waved friendly at them. They took a last look to the ground where Alabaster rounded up the last dark elves. As John and Rafti looked back, The dark tower and the dark workshop were now all colorful. All of a sudden, they saw a sled with 2 black reindeers rise into the sky and 3 dark elves on board. "Buster, Kringle, let's fly, boys," they heard. The sled flew quick right into the morning sun. "Oh, brother, Monti and a couple of friends escaped. We've got to hurry," said Rafti. "Right you are," said John. "They are flying to Christmas Town." He turned the plane and followed them. "Go and get them," shouted Alabaster as he and his elves were busy catching even the last dark elf and repair the damage done by Monti. Everywhere else, toys and everything else turned colorful little by little. If you have followed this story, you know who Monti is. And in chapter 6, we will see that Monti strikes back. He's revengeful. They flew as fast as they could, but Monti's reindeer sled was just faster. They were almost out of sight. "Okay, I guess we won't catch them before they reach town," said Rafti. "Does this thing have a radio on board?" asked John. "Why, do you want to listen to some Christmas music?" asked Rafti. "No, Rafti. I like to call Santa's headquarters to warn them." "Right, of course. However, we don't have a radio on board, but we have this." Rafti showed John a flare gun. "Before we reach town, I'll fire 2 red flares. That means emergency, and the Christmas Special Forces will be on alert." So they continued to fly as fast as they could. As the town got near, Rafti fired the 2 red flares and warned everybody. Monti went workshop by workshop and got more followers. And meanwhile, on the plane, "Can't see them anywhere. They must have gotten down somewhere over there," said Rafti, and showed the outskirts of Christmas Town. "Seems like we lost them," said John. They circled a while over town but didn't spot Monti and his gang. "John, take a turn here and let's fly to the chocolate factory on Chocolate River. We have a station at the Special Forces right there. If they want to go downtown, they have to go through there." The plane took a turn and off they went into the sky. Meanwhile, 6 dark elves took a look at the shelves of a shop called Rudy's Workshop. That was full of metal toys like cars, little robots, planes, trains, etc., and some metal toy guns. They took a couple of them, got a box of Monti Cola bullets and cola out of the sled, and then another. Filled the guns, and off they went to the next workshop. Just a couple of minutes later, and dark elves went silently on their way. The gingerbread plane landed just behind the chocolate factory. A couple of elves, Ginger Pete and Candy Joe, greeted John and Rafti as they got off the plane. "We saw your flares and they alarmed everybody, even the boss," said Pete. "Yeah," said Joe, "the whole Special Forces are alarmed. What's going on?" "Monti and a couple of friends escaped," said Rafti. "They must have gotten down near here." "Have you guys seen anything?" asked John. "Not yet, but there seems to be a bit of commotion across the Chocolate River. There are just a couple of workshops, you know, Pete. They watched the chocolate factory where all the chocolate for Christmas was made. Then the river filled with the most delicious chocolate you can imagine. Across the river they saw the outskirts of Christmas Town. They looked darker and gloomier than usual." "That doesn't look good," said Rafti. "Not at all," said John. "Hey, Pete, get the jelly bean guns ready. That smells like trouble," said Rafti. "Can't smell anything," said Pete the elf. "No, but something for sure doesn't feel right. Let's go," said Candy Joe. A bell rang. A big group of elves from the Special Christmas Forces assembled at the bridge across the Chocolate River, all in their red and green uniforms. Not a moment too soon, they just got to the bridge and saw across the river a group of over 20 dark elves led by Monti approaching. Chapter number 7, The Battle at the Chocolate River. Can you imagine a river of chocolate? You could really swim in it and not drown. That would be great. chocolate river. All in Monty's gang were armed with cola bullet pistols, or some just with cola bottles. In the back they saw their reindeer sled with the black reindeers filled with some boxes of Monty's cola and Monty's cola bullets. It didn't look too good at first. Monty's gang grew to over 20, while the Special Forces had about a dozen elves, including Rafti and John. Rafti and his elves took position at the end of the bridge. They blocked the way with wooden boxes, full of chocolate, of course. "Okay, John, listen now carefully," said Rafti. "The Christmas star is still on the ginger plane. You must get it to Santa's workshop, so safety." I don't know, Rafti, answered John. "Looks like you could need me here." "Right, but help is on the way. If the star falls again into Monty's hands, we're right where we started." "Okay, then I better get going," said John. And while all flavored jelly bean and cola bullets flew everywhere and elves turned colorful or dark on both sides, John took off with a ginger plane. He flew right to Christmastown, but changed directions quickly and dived into the bridge where his friends were engaged in battle. He must help him, he thought. He dived deep just over the bridge and fired a salvo from his all-flavored jelly bean guns. He pretty much cleared the bridge from Monty's gang. Now he thought they would not hold out until they arrived. He turned the plane around, waved to his friends, and flew off. On the roof of a house, just a couple of meters below the plane, threw a dark elf a bottle of cola in desperation to the plane. He hit the engine and the plane started to shake and smoked a bit, but continued flying. "Damn it," thought John, he was hit. The plane started to shook and smoked a bit, and navigating got just a little bit harder. He flew as fast as he could to Christmastown. John didn't make it to the workshop. However, he managed to land the smoking plane in the center of town, just behind the train station. They would have to bake a new engine, he thought. Elves came and helped him. He and the star were saved. Then he saw a big reindeer sled in the air full with armed elves and Santa Claus. "Ho, ho, ho," he heard. On the bridge, Monty saw the plane flying away. A bunch of his guys were turned on the bridge and ran toward the chocolate factory. He fired with all he got with his remaining gang of about 15 dark elves. Neither side could cross the bridge. They were stuck there. Just when Monty was ready for a final assault on the bridge, he heard a very familiar sound in the air. "Ho, ho, ho!" Santa Claus landed his sled just behind them. They were trapped. Alabaster Snowball also came with a couple of his elves. He left some behind Monty's cold workshop. Alabaster and his elves took care of Monty's sled and cured the black reindeers. Soon they turned to their old color and felt well again. Salvo after salvo of all flavored jelly bean guns fired at Monty and his gang. Soon they were all cured except Monty. He approached Santa with a cola gun in his hand. "Okay, old man," he said to Santa, "time to settle this once and for all." Both stood facing each other on the street. It was dead silent. "Why not, Monty? Let's finish this." Santa took out his colorful jelly bean revolver. They walked a couple of paces in opposite directions of the street, turned and fired. Before Monty could take one shot, he was hit by a couple of colorful jelly bean bullets and fell to the ground, firing a last shot in the air. Rafti and some other elves took him. He was too sick to be cured immediately, but he and his dark elves were disarmed. All their weapons and cola destroyed. All the other dark elves were cured and Christmasland was again a happy place. Monty came into the care of Mrs. Santa Claus. She took care of him, and after a while he was his old self again. Almost, at least. He always remained a bit grumpy, particularly in the morning, but nothing like a cup of hot chocolate couldn't fix. And now we come to the end of the story. The very, very end. And happy ending. The way home. Let's go home. Everybody was happy. Santa and the elves had a short celebration in town, and they continued with the last preparation for Christmas Eve. Santa hugged John and Rafti and thanked them. "Here, John, that belongs to you again." He gave him his beloved Christmas star back. "I take good care of yourself, my friend, and a very Merry Christmas to you and your family," said Santa. "Thank you, Santa. It was wonderful to be here," replied John. Rafti took John home with the flying reindeers. He looked at his 8-year-old self a last time, and then he was literally his old self again. They flew home the same way they came. John was still amazed from the perfect-looking winter wonder landscape. Up into the sky they rose into a colorful hurricane, and then back to good old Edinburgh. It was a wonderful sunset on Tuesday, December the 24th. Everything was quiet, and John looked at the perfect winter scenery. They entered John's home and put the golden Christmas star on top of the tree. John started a fire in the fireplace and sat down with Rafti. They had a lovely cup of Earl Grey, fresh ginger biscuits with cranberry marmalade, of course. Then Rafti said goodbye and flew home. The next day arrived John's son Peter and his family, and they had the best Christmas one could possibly imagine. And I hope you will have too. Merry Christmas to you all. The end. Thank you very much for being part of this story, because I'm sure that you remember the good old days when you woke up and opened the presents that Santa brought under the Christmas tree. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful and a Merry Christmas, you all. Thank you.